andare a esplorare con queste tecniche i testi di coloro che specificamente hanno tentato di definire cosa sono le emozioni. Penso ad esempio a leggere i testi di William James o di Carl Lange, che hanno espresso una teoria delle emozioni, e confrontarli con i testi di Cannon, che è stato un oppositore della teoria di James Lange. In questa maniera si potrebbe anche fare un discorso di meta-analisi sul metadiscorso, ma giusto, questo è un suggerimento.
No, I'm happy that you're experimenting the same methods. But just to make clear one thing, we didn't. Our tools didn't use any a priori knowledge. We just did that selection for evaluation purposes. In the sense, we said, okay, we want to try whether the method was working or not. And I said, okay, how can we do this? Well. Philosophers should find in this association something that they're familiar, and so especially the surrounders or the neighbors of words belonging to similar domains should also be given to us similarly by the method. So the a priori was just for, okay, we said in computation linguistics we call it a kind of gold standard. We said, okay, we use this as a reference point. Then I totally agree with the nice thing of these methods that allow you to be used in a completely unsupervised way. And on the other hand, I find also this to be problematic anyway, and I think we have to be careful when then we evaluate really the effectiveness of this method, because these methods are very good in bringing us associations, and then the problem is that which type of real semantic knowledge goes beyond these associations, also because some of these associations could be due to, I don't know, lexical concurrence or whatever type of relation. So this also was the reason, but otherwise I totally agree with your point.
Sì, prima di rispondere vorrei, se ci sono altre domande sulle varie relazioni. Prego.
So you mean things that were not explored, not found by the... Well, no, but what we did was exactly our philosophers in the team really evaluate which were the noise produced by these methods. So basically it was to say, you know, those terms that I have underlined, actually, they did it in the sense that they gave us to say, okay, these are interesting things that were found and so on. They didn't do any, let's say, false negative analysis. Okay, that was the point. We focus more on false positive understanding. Well, for instance, this idea of the wisdom, when we first categorized, we found the wisdom among the associate of Kacha, we consider it as an error. And then our philosophers said, oh, no, it's not an error. I mean, look at the text. I mean, that's something that we really believe that it should be found as an associate with the term. But truly, you are right in the sense that we missed that part of the evaluation, which still, again, in this method, it's very delicate part. I have done, for instance, when I'm using this method on semantic analysis in a more contemporary sense, not an historical analysis, and that because I totally agree with you.
Well, if I can answer first, this question is very stimulating. I am very modest because I am only an historian, so I don't dare to predict anything. As this is the most fundamental lesson that we can learn from history, that history cannot predict the future. So my own role is purely explanatory, if I can, because even there it's quite difficult to explain historical events in a very satisfying way. But I think this, what you said is very right. I would like very much to interact with neurobiologists, psychologists, psychoanalysts, in order to be productive. What I can assume I can do is just to give some historical background about this predictive activity. I think this is one of the most important efforts that our center in Geneva is producing. It's putting together historians with philosophers, with sociologists and neurobiologists and psychologists, of course, experimental psychology, in order to think about and to make prediction on way of improving emotions in our society. Because the starting point is that emotion are tightly present in our individual and collective activities and behaviors. It is important to pick up the traditional lesson from the past that a society must control emotions. This is a need for a coherent social structure. So in this sense is really an engagement toward the future of our. I think, however, that we make more effort in historical analysis because very often scientists and psychologists doesn't look backwards so much. For example, everybody thinks that stress is a traditional concept. Nobody knows, almost not nobody, most of the people doesn't know that it was introduced only after the First World War. So it's quite a recent concept, and try to see what stress means in relation to the traditional psychological concept is quite important. Well, I think that what Liborio said is quite right. I think that your lecture is perfectly shows that a lot of things can be done. Well, my hope is this thing should be done, in particular in the field of the texts about passions. Probably this afternoon we will learn something about Descartes, the Passion de l'âme, and lexical analysis of this very important book. Perhaps it would be interesting to compare Descartes' classification with Courreau de la Chambre tract on the classification of the passions in order to see a philosophical discourse compared with a medical one at about the same period. The other thing, I think it would be very important to look at the musical figures because music is central in the discourse, because from the very beginning is the artistic activity and the social activity more directly connected with emotions. So, for example, comparing what the texts, Monteverdi's, Zarlino's, Galilei's text about music, Galilei the father, of course, about